Welcome, everybody, to the Silicon Valley Clean Energy's Board of Directors meeting. Let's start off with a statement from Director Meadows, who is visiting us from afar.
Yes, hello, everybody. I am appearing remotely pursuant to AB 2449 under the Just Cause provision because I am unable to attend in person due to a contagious illness. And there is no individual, any other individual of any age present in the room at the remote location with me. I am alone with my virus.
Thank you for that rather chilling announcement. Thank you, Director Meadows. With that, let's go and proceed with our roll call.
Thank you, Chair. I will begin for those participating in person. I see alternate Director Showalter. Director Makachuk.
Present.
Director Mohan.
Here.
Director Chua.
Here.
Chair Tyson.
Here.
Vice Chair Walia.
Here.
Director Rennie.
Here.
Alternate Director Srinivasan.
Here.
Director Lee.
Present.
Director Martinez Beltran.
Here.
Thank you. Participating remotely, Director Meadows.
Here.
Director Hilton.
Here.
Thank you. And I will note that we have a quorum.
Great. Thank you very much, Andrea. Let's move on to a public comment on items not listed on the agenda. Do we have any public comments in the room? I do not see any. Do we have any online?
No hands raised, Chair.
There are no public comments. Very good. Thank you. We're about to proceed into closed session. And so now I will ask if there's any public comment regarding the item in closed session. In the room? I do not see any. Do we have any online? We do not. In that case, we were now convened to a closed session with the subject matters as listed in the agenda. I'll see you all shortly. Are we about ready? Is the recording still underway?
Yes, it is.
It is. Great. Thank you. Thank you. We are now returning from closed session. Welcome, everybody. Let me make this following announcement. The board met in closed session to consider appointment of a new CEO. By a vote of 13 directors in favor, no opposing and no abstentions, the board voted to appoint Monica Padilla as Silicon Valley Clean Energy's new CEO. I move that we now pull item 1C from the consent calendar and consider it at this time. If you will look ahead, you will see that item 1C is approving an employment agreement with the Chief Executive Officer.
I second that.
Okay.
All right. I can
And then
proceed with a roll call vote if you're ready, Chair.
Yes.
Should we take public comment?
We should take public comment. Is there any public comment on this item before we do a roll call? Just a roll call. Great. Thank you. Let's do a roll call vote then.
All right. Chair Tyson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Walia.
Yes.
Director Scozola.
Aye.
Director Mohan.
Yes.
Director Rennie.
Aye.
Director Chua.
Aye.
Director Makachuk.
Aye.
Director Martinez Beltran.
Resounding yes.
Alternate Director Showalter. Yes. Alternate Director Srinivasan.
Yes.
Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Hilton.
Aye.
Director Meadows.
Yes.
Thank you. That carries.
Great. Thank you very much. Let me go ahead and just make some comments right now on this motion or this move in front of us. And what I want to start off with by saying is thank you to the staff who provided input on the qualities that we were looking for, or that they were looking for in terms of a new CEO and what they were looking for. And also thank you to the entire board for the input and also delegating to a subcommittee the ability to make this happen so smoothly for us. And I just want to say, without intending to embarrass anybody, that Monica is the right choice for our next CEO. She's really shown that to us. She joined us in 2018. She served the last 2 years as COO. She's shown in-depth knowledge of procurement, but also shown a deft hand in managing people and has broad contacts within the whole industry. Look at that. I'm not even looking at my notes. But anyway, we know what she's done. She's put us in a very strong position. And she also represents a strong point of continuity. We've had a wonderful time with our CEO, Girish Balachandran, and welcome his continued involvement through his contract. And I think that we're well positioned to have a smooth transition and an even more successful Silicon Valley Clean Energy. And so Monica will be working with Girish during this transition time period and to make sure that things move smoothly. And of course, we want to go back to the staff and the employees to say how much we value your work and how we continue to want to invest in our employees and strengthen our programs, and that Monica, with her passion for our purpose and our organization, is the right person. And I look forward to some great success with her. And with that, if I can pass it over to Vice Chair Walia, maybe you have something to add.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you have said. And I believe Monica is the right person to lead SVCE at this point. She has a vision for the future that is well aligned with the board's approved strategic focus areas and the strategic plan. As chair of the executive committee, I have this year worked very closely with Monica, extensively with her on numerous issues. And I have found that she has the experience at SVCE. She has been here for a few years, as George Tyson just mentioned, and she has been in this industry in her previous jobs for a while. And she is ready to guide SVCE to continue the progress in the decarbonization field in terms of the electric, the building, and the transportation sectors. She will continue the current SVCE leadership. And regarding the transition with Girish, as Chair Tyson mentioned, I am also looking forward to working with both Girish and Monica to ensure that Monica is set up for success. And above all, the employees can continue to contribute to SVCE's success. She will continue to invest in maintaining and building SVCE employee capacity and culture. And I know what a phenomenal team we have at SVCE, that Monica will work towards the employee success and well-being and continue on the broad mission of decarbonizing and focusing on SVCE's mission. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and Director Rennie.
Thank you, Chair.
The third member of our executive search team.
Yeah, so as a member of the search team, I won't repeat what's already been said. I agree completely with the comments so far. And I would just add also, Monica has very deep understanding of the power sector, which is something we've always thought was very critical to being our CEO here at Silicon Valley Clean Energy. In addition, her 6 years here has really given her a broad knowledge all the way across our business. And it was very clear, we did a thorough search process. It was very clear that she not only understood all across our business, she is prepared for all aspects of being the CEO and was clearly head and shoulders above the other candidates. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Rennie. So just to be clear, we're now on item 1C, which I've pulled forward on the consent item. And so let me just see if there's any other director's comments on that. Director Mekachuk.
Thank you. Congratulations, Monica. And I just wanted to say that your stature in the industry is amazing. People see you as a leader, and I think that's very important for Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and I'm very proud. that you've been selected and to be part of Silicon Valley Clean Energy.
Thank you, Director Makachuk. Any other comments? I don't see any. I do not see any online. Oh, what? I don't see a hand up though. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Director Martinez Beltran.
Thank you. Congratulations, Monica. We're really excited. I've been able to grow on this dais with you and under your mentorship as well. I've enjoyed watching your growth with Garish as COO. I remember when we voted you to take that role. And I'm looking forward to seeing you grow even more. I know that you're widely respected in the environment. I've heard from others, which has been very impressive and reassuring. So we're wishing you all the best. You have a phenomenal team behind you. So that just leads us to believe that we are unstoppable to reaching our goals. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. I'm going to open it up to public comment. Do we have any public comment in the room? Seeing none, do we have any public comment online?
No hands raised, Chair.
We do not. In that case, let me go ahead and read in effect the contents of 1C. So I will read this out. I recommend approval of the employment agreement with Monica Padilla as the new CEO for SVCE. The agreement provides an annual salary of $403,000, 40 hours of management leave, in addition to the SVCE standard paid time off, and a $400 a month transportation allowance for an electric car. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the employment agreement with the Chief Executive Officer as read by Chair Tyson and as included in the packet.
Okay, and we may
Second.
have a second from Director Rennie. Very good. We've had a discussion and a motion and a second, so I'm ready for a roll call vote.
Thank you. Chair Tyson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walia,
Aye.
Director Scozola,
Aye.
Mohan,
Aye.
Rennie,
Aye.
Chua,
Aye.
Makachuk,
Aye.
Martinez Beltran,
Yes.
Showalter,
Yes.
Srinivasan, Lee,
Yes.
Hilton,
Aye.
Meadows.
Aye.
Thank you. And that motion carries unanimously.
Very good. Thank you. Let me go ahead and hand the mic over to our current CEO, Girish Balachandran.
Thank you, Chair Tyson, members of the search committee and board. Gives me great pleasure to make a few comments right now. I've known Monica for a bit, 33 years. She was at a different department in Palo Alto while I was there. And I had the pleasure of hiring her into my group in 1998. Worked with her for about 9 years and then left and then got to hire again in 2018. And we worked together for 6 years now. So in that about 15 years of working with her, really seen something that she learns very fast and she really cares about people. And I'm talking not just to you, but to all our employees. Her care for every individual. I've seen it in the past and in her role as Director of Power Resources. So for all our employees at SVCE, you're going to get a CEO who really cares about you individually. Another thing she really cares about is bottom line value. And it's value for the agency. She's constantly asking, how does this make sense for customers? How does it make sense for our agency as a whole? And that she really cares about it. So it comes out in everything she does, which is what you want. In every small and big decision, you want that care, and you're going to get that. She's very well respected across the industry. So she's going to step into these key partnership roles we have at Cal CCA, CC Power, CCCFA, and the broader industry of the municipal power business and our work with developers. So that transition is going to be quite smooth. For those who don't know her employees and board members about her her role, because you probably know her as Director of Power Research and COO. When she was in Palo Alto, she worked on the department-wide utility strategic plan. And they have a water, gas, and electric utility. So the kinds of things we would need in a CEO, so a department-wide strategic plan, she brings that to the table. She also worked on developing Palo Alto's carbon neutral plan in 2013. So that gets to the core of our business too. So it just gives me great pleasure, pride that she's our next CEO. And yeah, thank you very much, Search Committee and entire board. You made this selection. Over back to you.
I wonder if it's possible to ask our new CEO to say a few words. Well, it's possible to ask.
Written words. Nice. Actually, use the printer. So I used a printer and and printed out a few words, and then I left it on my desk. So, give me a chance to pull it up. Because I know if I try to do this without a script, I will not say everything that I really want to say here. I'm glad I have my glasses. First of all, thank you, Chair Tyson, Garish, and all of the people who said such kind words about me. Thank you so much for your vote of confidence and your support. I am both excited and admittedly a bit nervous about the opportunity to lead the SVCE team. Garish leaves a huge impact on the organization and a proven track record of success. As I have worked with him over the past 5 years, actually we go back way further than that, I have gained a huge appreciation for his leadership style and his commitment to listen to all stakeholders and collaborate on solutions to help fight climate change. I hope that I can continue to lead the SVCE team and carry out our vision as effectively as Garish. At SVCE, we have co-created an organization which encourages innovation, adapts to constant change, faces challenges head-on, and embraces opportunities to further our mission. We have built a culture of encouragement and fun while never wavering on our mission and our promise to the SVC community to work together to achieve our collective decarbonization goals. In the few years that we have existed, we have built a solid, successful, financially viable, and sustainable organization ready to take on any and all future challenges. Over my own 5+ years here, I have led our efforts to build a sustainable, affordable, and reliable portfolio of clean power supply resources. We now have more than 19 long-term PPAs in our portfolio, 20 if you approve the one that we're bringing tonight, which includes many new build projects, and we have been effectively operating these resources in the market for the benefit of our customers. I stand committed to making continued progress in building our clean portfolio, aligned with the state's ambitious goals of building a clean, reliable, and affordable grid of the future, and to be a leader in this space. I am super excited to expand my role and help lead SVCE's efforts to decarbonize everything within our communities. Our efforts here will be monumental, requiring continued innovation, collaboration, engagement with many stakeholders, new partnerships, and strong leadership by all, and that includes me, the board, and staff. But I believe that by continuing to do what we do, that is continued development and deployment of cost-effective, innovative, and sustainable policies and programs, we will make real transformations and progress towards our goals. I do recognize that the role that you are entrusting me with is critical to the agency's success and our ability to meet our mission. But I also realize that I'm not alone in this effort. Our success thus far is a direct result of our amazing employees and the leadership of the board. As the next CEO, I will embrace my role in carrying out the directives of our communities and of the board in the most responsible and transparent manner. I will lead the SVCE team respectful of our past efforts and successes and cognizant of the growth and maturity we must embrace. I look forward to our journey together. Thank you again.
Thank you. With that, let's move on to our consent calendar. So all the other items. Do we have any items that directors wish to pull? I do not see any. Do we have any public comment on items on the consent calendar, excluding 1C, which we already dealt with? I do not see any in the room, and there are none online. May I have a motion to approve consent?
So move.
And a second from Dr. Lee. Any further discussion? In that case, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Chair Tyson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walia,
Aye.
Director Scozola,
Aye.
Mohan,
Aye.
Rennie,
Aye.
Yua,
Aye.
Makachek,
Aye.
Martinez Beltran,
Aye.
Showalter,
Yes.
Srinivasan,
Yes.
Lee,
Aye.
Hilton,
Aye.
Meadows.
Aye.
Thank you. And that motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. We'll move on now to our regular calendar and begin with item number 2, the CEO report.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. A couple of things before I introduce several new employees. First, on December 13th at 4 p.m. right here in Cupertino City Hall, we're going to have an event at 4 p.m. and that's called Reflect and Recharge. We've sent invites out. It's on your calendar. We have about 75 folks signed up already. This has a capacity of about 150. And we're going to have several speakers looking at the future, the decarbonization space, what's happening across CCAs in the state, what's happening in terms of getting to a carbon-free future in 2045. And right now we have 2 of our local elected officials, Sacramento elected officials, who have also agreed to be here. So we're looking forward to that and your participation too. Secondly, PG&E has issued the rates. They haven't provided their final rates, but all indications are that their rates are going to be higher than expected and the PCIA is going to be lower than expected. So Amrit and his team are working on pulling together, as we've told you, when you pass the budget, that in the November, December timeframe, we'll have more accurate information on forecasts, and we'll be coming to you with some updates for rate-making purposes. So we expect that the net revenue, which we previously expected for this coming year to be in the $7 million range, is going to be substantially higher than that. We are figuring out what that is exactly going to be, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. I'll also mention that over the last year, I'd mentioned to you that we were expecting a citation from the CPUC, so we will be updating you on that also through Tricia. So now I'll move on to exciting news with our new employees. So we have a summary of their background in your board packet, and I'd love to introduce each of them in turn so that they can introduce themselves to you. So first up is going to be Britta Bradshaw, who's joined the 4Pro group, which is Monica's group. Super happy to have her with us. Britta, would you please introduce yourself to the board?
Sure. Thanks, Girish, and good evening, board. I'm Britta Bradshaw. I am the Power Resource Manager for SVCE, started in mid-October. really excited to be at SVCE. I was at PG&E for 10 years before this, in a variety of roles, most recently contracting for long-term renewables and energy storage, and a lot of roles, corporate sustainability, renewable energy policy and strategy. Really excited to be moving to the CCA world. I got into the energy industry because of a passion to actually do something about climate change, and excited to be at an organization where that's the #1 mission. It's been great to be here so far. Little about me outside of work. All my time is taken up by my family, mostly my 4-year-old daughter. And I don't know, not much else to say, but really excited to meet you all virtually, and thanks. Excited to be here.
Thank you very much, Britta. Next up in the batting lineup here, we have Adam Pierce, who joined SVC in September 16th as our new regulatory analyst, and he is also in the 4Pro group. Adam?
Hi, good evening. I'm really happy to be joining you. I am a regulatory analyst working with Marin, Monica, the rest of the 4Pro team. As far as my background, I have an undergraduate degree in public policy from Duke University and a law degree from Tulane University with a focus in energy and environmental law. I've been practicing law as an attorney for 9 years, which included work in DC at Oceana, which was an ocean conservation organization, and then time at the Sierra Club as part of their Beyond Coal campaign. I've been in private practice in San Francisco for the last 7 years, litigating a variety of environmental statutes, state, federal, and local. I'm really excited to be working here at SVCE because my career goal has always been to work towards solutions for climate change. I've always had a specific interest in the administrative regulatory world at the CPUC and the docket there. So this is a dream opportunity for me to dive into the nitty-gritty policy work there, and SVCE's reputation made it a great place to want to come to work, and I've already learned just a ton being here for a few weeks. So I'm excited about the work ahead. Outside of work, my wife and I had our first child about 10 weeks ago, a baby boy, so that's very exciting. And I fill out my free time
That's what it looks like.
with enjoy food and music. So I'm glad to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Really appreciate you and Britta joining our agency. So now we'll move to folks who are present with us. First up is Brett Suriani, and he does have some, I'm just going to fill in the time while you come up here. He has some CCA experience and has worked with Nick in the past. So please introduce yourself to the board, Brett.
Thank you, George. I'm Brett Suriani. I'm the new IT analyst with SVCE. I've got about 16 years of IT experience under my belt. Some of that was spent with Monterey Bay Community Power down in Monterey County. I have worked with Nixon Otto, our manager of IT as well. So wonderful working with him again. I bring general help desk experience, network administration experience, and several years of cybersecurity experience. And I'm looking forward to applying that and helping SVCE remain secure as we do what we're here to do and help the community and ideally save the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brett. He's already added value over here. We'll have the other IT jokes coming up, but all right. So last up is one more addition to Monica's group. We have Willie Wang. Please come on up. He has a diverse career, and we're super happy to have him on our team. Please introduce yourself, Willie.
Thank you, Girish, for the intro, and congratulations to Monica. Good evening, board members. Super happy to be here. My name is Willie. I'll start with a fun fact. So I owned and operated a restaurant in Oakland with my wife for 8 years, and through the pandemic as well. It was an incredibly rewarding experience, but I'll just say I'm glad to be back in the energy industry. So in terms of energy experience, I started my career at SoCal Edison, and then worked for a solar panel manufacturer. And most recently, I am managing hydrogen fuel cell assets. While at Edison, actually, I remember when CCAs were first coming on the scene. And so it's been really an incredible experience for me to see how far CCAs have come in just a little over 10 years, which for me really shows me the power of what visionary public policy can do. So with that, I'm super excited to be here at this intersection of energy, policy, and community. So thanks for having me.
Willie, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Chair Tyson, that's the end of my report.
Very good, thank you. And welcome to all our great new employees. We look forward to finding out more about you. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? I do not see any online. I do not see any. Do we have any public comment? I do not see any. Are there any public online? Doesn't look like it. With that, let's move on then to item number 3, and that is approving the 2024 legislative policy platform. And looks like that's time for Benna Chang.
Yes, good evening, board. Thank you for having me. I'm Benna Chang, Director of Governmental and Legislative Affairs. I'm here tonight for the approval of the 2024 legislative policy platform and the authorization to create a 2024 legislative ad hoc board committee. Sorry, Andre, could you forward a slide, please? Thank you. Next slide. One more. It's different when you don't have the clicker in your hand, really. Okay, first, I wanted to give the board a recap of the 2023 legislative year. On the federal level, legislative efforts were really bogged down over partisan issues. So we spent this year really focusing on the rollout of major legislation that the federal government passed in previous years, including the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. At the state level, the legislature and the governor were really focused on reliability and interconnection delays for both transmission and distribution systems. As you know, the state closed a $30 billion budget deficit, partially by trimming or delaying climate-related funding. On the forecast side of things, for next year, we anticipate another tough state budget year with another shortfall. We also expect the legislature to continue conversations on things like a potential November 2024 climate bond. And finally, I anticipate that reliability will continue to be a concern and that affordability will also increasingly become a higher priority. Next slide, please. So we're here tonight to really talk about the 2024 legislative policy platform. And as a reminder, this is the guiding document that staff uses throughout the year to respond to legislation. And it includes a lot of high-level policy statements as well as policy examples of the different kinds of things we anticipate the legislature to really focus on next year. So for this year's policy platform, we're not proposing any substantive changes to the major guiding principles listed on the screen here. Next slide, please. However, we do anticipate some changes to the policy examples, really to reflect where we think the legislature might be headed next year. So I've summarized some of the changes on the screen here. It includes, again, suggestions from staff on where we think the legislature might be going, and in particular to refine program needs and opportunities. We think the legislature will continue to focus on some of the interconnection challenges in particular. And then we have also incorporated a lot of the good feedback from the members of the Legislative Ad Hoc Committee of the board. which includes supporting energy conservation and efficiency, supporting the fair treatment of carbon-free resources, including nuclear, wind, and geothermal. And then we've also added a line item about the climate bond as well. Next slide, please. So we're also asking the board tonight to reauthorize the approval of a creation of a legislative ad hoc board committee for 2024. The committee meets several times a year to provide input and feedback to staff about legislative issues. Next slide. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Benna. And by the way, by way of reference, we have had an ad hoc committee and we're going to end the ad hoc committee.
Correct.
And by our discussion today, we will authorize the creation of a new one, but we're not actually naming people to that yet.
Correct.
Yes. So with that, let me see if I have any questions or comments from board members. I do not see any here in the room. Do we have any? Yep. Oh, there we go. Director Showalter.
Yes, Benna, while I have your expertise available, I wondered if this climate bond includes anything related to sea level rise protections or that, flood related issues.
Sure. And I will say that the climate bond discussions are ongoing and there's a lot of uncertainty. Whether or not we even have a climate bond is a question right now that the legislature is debating. I think a lot of it has to do with the financial health of the state, how much bonding capacity there might be, and what other priorities the legislature and the governor want to fund in November. But there have been some legislative proposals this past year on what could be part of a climate bond. And I will say that it is definitely more than just clean energy issues. They're thinking about it from a natural resources and water kind of perspective. But the conversations are very fluid, and we expect more discussions early next year about what might be included in a bond.
Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you. Director Makachuk.
Yes, I want to compliment you and your team on putting together the legislative platform for 2024. I think it's very important for Silicon Valley Clean Energy to show leadership amongst the CCAs and work with Cal CCA in moving things forward at the state level. So I just wanted to compliment you and say that I'm very supportive of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Makachuk. Director Martinez Beltran.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank you, and I wanted to thank the ad hoc committee as the chair. It was a great year, and we really had all hands on deck. People were very willing to get involved. Ben, I had to only ask for help, and everybody reached out and exercised those relationships. And it really came to fruition when we got some of the big asks that we were looking for on the governor's trailer bill. So thank you to you, and thank you to everybody on the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further comments here, and then none online. Let me ask for public comment on this issue. I do not see any here in the room, and there's none online. And so with that, I would say I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second. Oh, sorry. Does someone else second?
Second.
Okay, Director Martinez Beltran seconded. Okay. With that, let's go ahead with the vote.
Thank you. Chair Tyson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walia,
Aye.
Dr. Scozola,
Aye.
Mohan,
Aye.
Rennie,
Aye.
Chua,
Aye.
Mekachuk,
Aye.
Martinez Beltran,
Aye.
Showalter,
Aye.
Srinivasan, Lee,
Aye.
Hilton,
Aye.
Meadows.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Great, thank you very much. We'll move on now to item number 4. Item number 4 is authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to make changes to the Green Start and Green Prime retail rate offerings. And just a few comments as we get our staff lining up here. You just heard a few minutes ago about the legislative changes that have been affecting our whole industry. And I think that's what we're learning about the landscape, is that the current pricing for carbon prices have increased tremendously. And there's increased competition for those resources. There's drought in the Northwest. There's large corporations that are acquiring resources, thus kind of starving the market for those for folks like us to buy it. And then also some delays in implementation. So that's the context. This isn't something that we would choose to have to look at, but given that, we're seeing some extreme pricing and we have to decide to what extent should we or could we pivot and to what. And so that's what we're going to hear from next. We're going to hear from Don Bray, and it looks like Monica Padilla. And so when they're done with that presentation, I'm going to ask our vice chair, Director Walia, to provide some overview of the discussion we held at the executive committee. And also, just by way of context, we did get a couple of public comments earlier today and of people interested in this topic. So with that, take it away.
Yeah, I think actually Maren Wenzel is going to be doing the first part of this presentation.
Okay.
I'm hoping she's on.
Yeah, I'm here, Monica.
Great.
Great.
Hadn't heard from her yet. Whew. All right. Well, I think Director Tyson, thank you for the introduction. We obviously had a really in-depth meeting on this on the executive committee. So I am going to hand it over, but I'm here to answer any questions should they come up my way. But we'll start with you, Maren.
All right. Thank you, Monica. And thanks, Chair Tyson, for those opening comments. Yeah, so I think if we move along to the next slide, we can start diving into this. We wanted to give a little bit of context for what we're going to discuss today. So first, we want to start by really talking about the long-term vision that SVCE is working towards and thinking through pathways to achieving our mission over the long-term horizon. We also want to give an overview of our standard product offerings for a little bit of context before we talk about some of those challenges that were mentioned at the outset, and really looking into how we can engage in our procurement for 2024. Once we've looked through those challenges, we'll look at some of the short-term options to achieve either 100% clean or alternatives for both the Green Start and Green Prime product offerings. We jump to the next slide, please. So we wanted to start this conversation by re-level setting on SVCE's mission. I think it's important when we have these types of conversations that we sort of come back to this place. And I think what's really core here when we think about this is that our mission has always been to provide a balance between carbon-free, affordable, and reliable electricity and the innovative programs that SVCE provides for its community. And as was teed up at the outset of this, we are seeing some pretty significant market shifts that means that the equation and the balance between affordability and all of our other goals is starting to be challenged in some ways. So I think that's really what demands this conversation this evening. We jump to the next slide. As I said at the outset, we wanted to start by looking at the long-term picture and letting you all know a little bit about what we're planning on doing, over the next year and years as we try to get to 2045. And I think one thing that's important to bear in mind when we think about the long term is that from the outset, SVCE's goal has been to provide 100% carbon-free energy on an annual basis. But because of SB 100, we know that by 2045, what SVCE has always done is going to become the compliance obligation of all of the LSEs. And so we think that this demands us to really take some time to think about what our long-term value proposition is, given we know that eventually all of the LSEs are going to be doing what we're doing today. And perhaps we need to think about clean and think about our value add in a slightly different way going forward to make sure that we continue to offer something unique to our customers. We jump to the next slide. Thanks. So we do see this as an opportunity to really set a new course. We absolutely think that the mission is durable, but that shifting market and policy conditions mean that we really need to come back, balance, and perhaps redefine how we think about clean, affordable, and our innovative programs. So a few months ago, we had a board study session where we talked a little bit about a clean energy pathways paper that we are working on. And so the purpose of this study is really to assess how SVCE wants to think about clean going forward. And so we're looking into some portfolios. Some of them are laid out here. So, what would 100% RPS portfolio look like for SVCE, 24/7 carbon free, using a Google CFE score for our entire portfolio, or potentially just shifting our focus to incremental clean projects instead of trying to achieve any specific, portfolio-wide goal. And so we're going to look into the viability, the costs, and the risks associated with all of these different pathways, as well as the climate impact of them. In addition to that work, we're continuing to think about carbon abatement policies. Our programs team is always thinking about ways to expedite the energy transition, and we know that will continue to happen. And we've also made some hires that allow us to do much better load forecasting, which is also going to let us think a lot more about load modification and how we can use load modification to help ensure affordability and feasibility for a carbon neutral economy and future for our ratepayers. And I think once we have this broader understanding of what clean, affordable, reliable need to look like for our customers, we can then go and do a much more holistic look at how to balance and align those goals with all of our clean product offerings. So that's the long-term focus, and just wanted to tee that up at the outset. If we jump to the next slide here. Now to get to sort of back to where we are today and the challenges that we're facing. So just as a quick reminder, SVC really offers two primary product offerings. One is the Green Start product. The other is the Green Prime product. We'll get into a little bit more detail on both of these in a moment. And then also, I think, as everyone here is aware, we also have Green Prime Direct, which is available to some of our commercial and industrial customers. If we jump to the next slide, we can do a slightly deeper dive on what the two primary products that we're going to be speaking about this evening look like. So Green Start is 100% clean energy. Once again, we currently measure that on an annual basis. It's made up of roughly 50% RPS products that are made of both our long-term power purchase agreements and short-term agreements that we make to get those RECs. Those RPS products, they're solar, they're wind, they're the geothermal projects that we have under contract. Roughly the other half of that product offering is made up of carbon-free, GHG-free, non-RPS resources such as large hydro and nuclear. Traditionally, we've used nuclear allocations that we've received from the Diablo Canyon power plant through PG&E. Those allocations did not come to us this year, which is sort of part of what's created the situation that we're in today. We set the rate for this at a discount to the PG&E rate, and it makes up roughly 90 to 95% of our total load. And the emissions on this product are quite low, but they do include the emissions from the COSO geothermal plant that we've talked about in the past. Green Prime, which Dawn is going to talk about a lot more than I will this evening, fortunately for me, is made up 100% RPS, once again measured on an annual basis. Dawn will go into this in more detail, but all of the RECs in the Green Prime product are Green East certified. Right now, the product is made up entirely of wind and solar, and we provide it to roughly 5% of our retail load at an 0.8 cent premium to the Green Start product, and there are 0 emissions associated with it. We jump to the next slide here. I'll get a little bit more into the market conditions that were brought up at the outset and discuss some of the challenges that we're having there. So relative to even just 2 years ago, we're seeing both RPS and carbon-free attribute prices trading at roughly 5x what they were in the past. So for RPS, we're seeing prices in the range of $70 to $80 per REC, and carbon-free prices are currently trading at around $25 a megawatt hour. And when SVC first started, those numbers were, I think, less than $2. So it's a pretty dramatic increase that we're seeing. Even with all of the price increases, and obviously the price increases are being driven by a huge amount of demand, we're not sure that there's enough supply on the market at any price to achieve 100% clean for 2024. We suspect that if we can achieve 100% clean, that the incremental cost relative to our budget would be $30 million higher than we had budgeted. So it's a pretty substantial increase. And if we go to the next slide, we just wanted to lay out a little bit of sort of the opportunity cost associated with spending that $30 million should the board decide to direct us to go that direction. So $30 million could fund roughly 11,000 incentives for heat pump water heaters. It could allow us to have a 7.5% discount to our customers relative to PG&E, or it could fund roughly 4,500 L2 ports. And so once again, we aren't raising this because we think we should necessarily push this money to any one of these options up here. We just wanted to give a sense of the trade-offs that we have to look at when we're balancing affordability with clean, and thinking about, you know, which of these measures are going to have the longest lasting impact to our customers and really further our mission. We jump to the next slide. We wanted to lay out a few options as we see them for Green Start for 2024. Option one is really to maintain status quo and try to achieve carbon-free with additional purchases of large hydro. We would expect that we'd have roughly 74 pounds of CO2 per megawatt hour reportable on our power content label. That's consistent with what we currently have, once again, due to the COSO geothermal plant, which has some emissions that we must report. Obviously, it has the huge benefit of maintaining our historic product offering, but we aren't sure that it's feasible. And as we just discussed, or as I just pointed out, it's potentially very expensive. We expect it would be, you know, $30 million above budget in order for us to achieve that. A second option is for the board to approve staff to go out and purchase nuclear carbon-free attributes. So under this proposal, we would maintain 100% carbon-free with those nuclear purchases. We would expect the reportable PCL emissions to be comparable to where they are under our current portfolio. The big benefit here is that we think that we could likely do this at lower cost relative to doing it just with large hydro. Once again, we're not entirely sure at this point that it's feasible. It's still going to be somewhat expensive, but hopefully, less expensive within budget. And I think the big thing here, of course, is that we do believe that it requires board approval, because you all have granted authority for us to get the nuclear allocations, but this would require that we actually go out and purchase nuclear, which is a bit different. The final option would be for us to not procure any additional carbon-free energy for the portfolio for 2024. Our current position is that we're roughly 78% carbon-free. We are still expecting a large hydro allocation from PG&E, so that number should increase to roughly 85%. Under this scenario, we expect that our PCL reportable emissions would climb to about 170 pounds of CO2 per megawatt hour. Of course, this has the benefit of maintaining our reserves and allowing us to potentially down the line use that money to provide discounts or programs. But we do recognize that it is a significant shift from what we have done in the past, and that it's going to potentially create concerns for our customers, especially Green Start customers that have climate action plans and have to report the emissions associated with their electricity consumption. I believe with that, I get to turn it over to Dawn to chat about Green Prime program.
All right, thank you, Maren, and good evening, directors. As Maren mentioned, historically, we've offered our Green Prime product at an 0.8 cent premium to Green Start, and that 0.8 cent covers the additional cost of the RECs that are needed to get to 100% renewable product. So that's been the basic math. And as you've heard, we're dealing with a lot of challenges in the marketplace right now to recover our costs for that incremental set of recs in 2024, we would need to more than triple that 0.8 of a cent premium. So that's how significant a challenge we're seeing cost-wise in the market. And further complicating this is Green E certification. Green E certification is something, it's a third-party certification that ensures that customers are getting recs that are indeed additional to what's required by the RPS. So we're not double counting. There is a requirement that the resources are newer than 15 years old. There's a requirement that an independent audit happen of our accounting of the recs. It's really considered a gold standard in the certification space. But it has a lot of additional requirements. We need to buy recs that are Green E certified in the market. They're expensive and they're very, very hard to find right now. So even more of a challenge, availability and cost-wise. Next slide, please. So who are our Green Prime customers? Again, Green Prime is about 5% of our total. And that 5% is split almost perfectly in half between large C&I customers and our SVCE member agencies. The primary motivation is really leadership and providing visible leadership. Our large C&I customers, many are participating in prominent voluntary programs like the US EPA Green Power Partnership program. And this is very public, and our customers win awards for being 100% renewable. And that's why they buy this product. Many also have LEED certified buildings. You get additional LEED points if you buy 100% renewable. On the member agency side of things, at one point we had all our member agencies on Green Prime, and we got a lot of visibility and press for being the first CCA to have all our communities committed to 200% renewable product in this way. COVID came along, a number of cities back down to Green Start, but have since gone back to Green Prime. So I think we're at 12 of 13 now are back to Green Prime. And this is to help them, again, demonstrate leadership to their communities, meet their municipal GHG reduction targets and the like. And then we have a few thousand residential customers that have also stepped up to Green Prime. Next slide. So as I mentioned, Green E certification, very much the gold standard, but it limits us in terms of the recs that we can apply. We haven't been able to assign recs, for instance, from our PPAs. We've had to go to the market each year and buy short-term recs that have this Green E certification label. So we've looked into this, and we've determined that we can go a different route for certification. We can rely on our product content label that we publish each year for Green Prime, and that's again approved by the board each year. And we're going to propose continuing to do this third-party audit, which will provide additional support for the PCL. And these two things together should satisfy any EPA or LEED requirement for certified recs. Next slide, please. It's also important to know that PG&E has a competing 100% renewable product. They call it Solar Choice. The premium that they provide that at varies quite a bit by customer class. It's about 1.1 cent for medium commercial, all the way up to 2.3 cents for residential. So think about an average, maybe 1.6 cents, about twice what we've been charging. They provide all their recs to this program through PPAs that they have directly with solar installations up and down the valley, as you can see there. The enrollment in the program is currently capped, and they're looking to the CPUC to expand this program. So they have a petition for modification in right now. And we're kind of waiting to hear when this will be expanded, but we anticipate it could be kind of any time. Next slide. What are other CCAs doing? I haven't found a CCA yet that doesn't have 100% renewable product in addition to their standard offer. This is a handful from around the Bay Area. You can see a lot of products that look somewhat similar to Green Prime offered at a premium that's fairly similar to Green Prime. And it's interesting to see that MCE and EBCE have moved away from a Greenie certification, leveraging Regis, their PCL, and in some cases, an independent audit. Next slide, please. So what do we do looking into this next year with this question of the premium? We're laying out 4 options here. We have the bookends, options 1 and 4. Option 1 would be to stay where we are today with an 0.8 cent premium. This is at about a 50% discount to PG&E. This represents about a $3+ million impact to our reserve contribution, again, on account of how expensive these RECs are this year. From a advantages standpoint, it would mean no customer disruption, and it would maintain a very affordable alternative for a carbon-free product if, in fact, Green Start has additional emissions attached to it. So in some respects, it could become even more attractive. Cons, of course, that there is an impact here from a reserve standpoint and a cross subsidy. If we go to the other side of the page, option 4, the other bookend would be to increase the premium all the way to 2.5 cents to recover the full incremental cost. If we think about this in terms of bill impacts, we would be adding about $100 a year to a residential customer's bill, a residential customer that's on Green Prime. The product would be at a 50% premium, or in other words, 50% higher than PG&E's cost. The impact on municipal or C&I customers' bills varies all over the place because we have big and small customers. Municipally, we have the county and we have Monte Sereno. Those are very different numbers. If you want to think about an average, it would probably be on the order of probably $80,000, something like that, for our municipal agencies. So that's option 4. When we discussed this with the executive committee, they were really in the middle here. So looking between options 2 and 3, probably the advantages of option 2 is that it would be stepping up the increase a little more modularly. So going from 0.8 cents to 1.2 cents, it would be an important price signal, really showing our customers that this product is getting more expensive. It will make sure that they're committed, and yet it will maintain a product with that's attractive and competitive. Option 3 would be pricing it essentially at the PG&E price of about 1.6 cents. We would likely see more opt-downs from Green Prime to Green Start, but probably not opt-outs because the product is priced basically at PG&E as opposed to being option 4, which would be at a premium. So that was how the executive committee was thinking about this, somewhere between options 2 and 3. Yeah, I think I will turn it back to Maren at this point, who will wrap all these things together. We need to look at Green Start and Green Prime together as we think through our final recommendations.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Yeah, so Don already gave you a little bit on what we heard from the executive committee when we met with them late last month. And I think one of their recommendations that's not on here that Don teed up is that it's important to discuss both Green Start and Green Prime together. Potentially what we do to Green Start will impact the decision or the option we want to select for Green Prime. So that's also, I think, an important point here. When we met with the executive committee, the feedback we received on Green Start was to pursue option 2, which would allow the purchase of the nuclear carbon-free resources, but that if option 2 is not feasible, if we can't find the attributes out there, that we would maintain our current clean position. On the Green Prime side, feedback was to eliminate the Green E certification. And also, I think an important note that we need to provide a competitive opt-up product that is 100% clean so that customers do have an option to pursue there. And as Dawn mentioned, the feedback was that probably the premium should be increased somewhere between option 2 and 3 that Dawn laid out just a moment ago. I'll quickly summarize staff recommendation for both the products and then give a little bit of our forward-looking recommendation and finally our next steps and timeline here as we wrap up. So thank you. So for Green Start for 2024, our recommendation would be to continue to seek carbon-free resources within the budget parameters for the calendar year. We would recommend that the board approve the procurement of those nuclear carbon-free resources because we suspect that's the best path in order to achieve carbon-free within budget. But if we cannot find those carbon-free resources within the budget, we would adjust our clean goal for 2024 downward to our current position. Once again, right now that's 78%. But we do expect it to increase to 85% once we get those PG&E allocations. If we move to the next slide, we can look at the staff recommendation for Green Prime. So here we would recommend discontinuing the Green E certification for 2024, reprice the Green Prime premium for 2024 from that 0.8 cents per kilowatt hour to 1.2 cents per kilowatt hour, once again reflecting that underlying cost increase associated with the product. And then our plan would be to communicate those changes and make adjustments in December of 2023, which takes us to our next step slide. Oh, I apologize. There's one more slide on our ongoing path beyond 2024. So I mentioned at the outset, we're doing a lot of work and thinking about how we want to build up our portfolio as we get towards 2045. And so we do plan to return early next year with that paper and can share our thinking on our pathways to carbon neutrality. And once we've had that discussion, I think we can reassess the Green Start and Green Prime offerings in a more holistic manner. So with that, we can jump to next steps. So depending upon what we hear from the board today, we will come back in December with an expected rate proposal for Green Start and Green Prime, including our discount relative to PG&E. Once again, we'll bring you that clean energy futures pathways paper in Q1 and hopefully get some initial feedback then, but just wanted to tee up now that part of the reason why the feedback is important is because in November of 2024, we will be filing our next integrated resource plan. And we're going to need to develop scenarios and put together some thinking that will eventually be public and submitted to the PUC on what our clean trajectory and portfolio strategy is going forward. And I believe with that, we can open it to discussion. So I'll turn it back to the chair.
Great. Thank you, Mara and Dawn and Monica in reserve. And before we start with the rest of the board, I think I can call on our Vice Chair, Director Walia, for some additional comments.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. I'd like to start again by thanking Maren, Dawn, and Monica, and everyone else who's been working on this. So a couple of weeks ago, as Maren pointed out, the exec committee had a pretty long discussion on this. And one thing that comes to my mind is, one of the things we have talked repeatedly about is how volatile the market is in this industry in terms of the prices. And that's essentially what is causing so much impact for both the products that we are looking at, whether it's 15 times or 5 times. But the impact is something that we have to deal with. We have to be able to adapt so that we can mitigate the risks, provide the product, essentially keeping that balance, focusing on our mission as well as moving forward so that we keep the Silicon Valley clean energy financial impacts in mind as we move forward in the short run, whereas we are investing truly for our goal of mission of decarbonization for the long term. So at the executive committee meeting, it was a pretty robust discussion. A lot of questions from all the members of the committee were asked, and we went into great depth. We reviewed all the options and provided some initial feedback with the goal that the full board of directors today reviews everything carefully and then moves forward for both Green Start and Green Prime. The general consensus at that time that I heard was to support staff's recommendation for both the products, both Green Start and Green Prime, and see where we are today. Thank you, George.
Great, thank you, Vice Chair. So let's go ahead with our own discussion. I'm thinking it would be perhaps a little more fruitful if we just talk about Green Start first, and then we talk about Green Prime separately, because those are somewhat, well, they're very independent decisions. So do we have any questions or comments regarding Green Start? Director Lee.
Yeah, thank you. As for Green Start, I think the recommendation from staff is about the option 2, which is the start with trying to see if we could buy nuclear that will be able to obtain the higher percentage of green carbon free emission as much as possible first. And if that's not available, then we revert back to the kind of the status quo of, am I?
You have it exactly.
Is that correct? Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I think that is, that sounds to be a very practical solution. So I think that's something that I will be willing to support, because I really do believe that number one, I think for our customers, maintaining 100% carbon-free status is something that our customer wants, and then also matches our goal. But the thing is, at the end of the day, there has to be A, available, B, is not be ridiculous in price. So I think that's a fair trade-off there. So so on that issue of Green Start, I will be able to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. Director Makachuk?
Director Tyson, can I make a clarification?
Yes.
Staff's recommendation is to, as mentioned, try to pursue buying carbon-free nuclear resources if they're available. If they're not available, then we essentially don't procure any additional carbon-free. So not status quo.
That's what he said. That's what he's meant.
Well, status quo is that we try to get to 100% clean.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, just to clarify.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. Director Makachuk then.
I was going to say that it was a very robust discussion. That means we went on and we drilled into this and we asked a lot of questions of staff. And one of the things why we agreed with supported staff's recommendations, there was a lot of thought that Diablo Canyon is going to stay for a while. So we're thinking that if that is an alternative, then it should be pursued. So I just wanted to reinforce that, taking kind of a practical approach to this.
Thank you, Director Makachuk. Anything further? Anything from the I see Director Meadows, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. So I may have missed it, but are we expecting this dilemma that we're making decisions about for 2024 to be a one-time dilemma, or is this going to be going on for a number of years, keeping in mind by 2045 we all have goals that we have to make anyway? So what I'm trying to determine is, could this be viewed as a one-time hit where we choose potentially a more expensive option, or is it likely to be a hit over a number of years given the demand for these products? I didn't necessarily hear that. You guys probably touched on it in the exec committee, but to me, it would be helpful to understand if we're just talking about 2024 or we're talking about a number of years.
Great, thank you for that question. And I will say every decision we make is subject until our next decision. And so that was the way I read this, because part of what I saw from the staff report was a broad strategic perspective as additional items as part of this. And now having teeing that up that way and giving you time to think about your answer, Monica, go ahead.
Yeah, I would echo that today's recommendation is only for 2024. And as Maureen mentioned, we will look at what kind of 2025 to 2030 looks like. That said, we don't see the prices coming down anytime soon. And so we will relook at the prices. We go out to market really often, and our goal really is to try to get more and more new RPS resources, which are actually much more cost effective than buying these short-term products. So I think that, you know, Warren will do her assessment, we'll continue to survey the market, and then when we come back in Q1, we'll have a better recommendation for 2025 through 2030 and then beyond 2030.
Great, thank
Yeah,
you.
I'd also add on the green prime front that this same analysis and the fact that if we do eliminate the green E requirement, it gives us some additional options for sourcing that could help from a cost standpoint. So yeah, I think a lot is going to go into the analysis that's done in the first part of next year to really better answer Sally's question.
Great, thank you. Did that answer it, Director Meadows?
Well, it did. I was not meaning to imply that we're making multiple years decision. I was asking for a crystal ball, which is hard in a market that is as volatile as this. And I do understand that, but if we expect this to be tight for a number of years, you know, then to me, that's a slightly different calculation. I mean, in the worst case scenario, are we willing to make a $30 million investment for 1 year? Or is this a question we have to ask ourselves for a number of years running? That's, I guess, what I was trying to understand.
Okay, I think we've got that. And actually with Don's answer, I think it'd be appropriate for us to switch over, even at the risk of some confusion, and talk more specifically about green prime. And I will get to public, and we'll just talk about the both when we complete that section. So Director Chua.
Thank you, Chair. Can you please explain the impact on eliminating the Green E certification? Why are we doing that?
So today, we have to buy Green E certified RECs. We do not have any Green E certified resources in-house. So we have to go to the market each year and buy those as short-term RECs. We can't hedge that. We literally have to pay whatever the market demands in that prompt year. If we move away from Green E over time, we could consider sourcing them from PPAs. We haven't done that yet, but it could be one part of the equation. So we could hedge that cost better in the future, for instance. We haven't seen that there's any material impact to our customers of moving off of Green E. We can use a different certification process that will satisfy, for instance, the EPA or the USGBC.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Great. Director Scazola and then Director Mohan.
Yeah, so just for the benefit of the public, whenever we talk about nuclear, there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation out there, a lot of fear about nuclear from the public. And so my question would be, how can you explain that this is actually beneficial and it's still, you know, towards our goals and objectives for the public's benefit?
Yeah, so the nuclear that we had been receiving I guess starting in 2021 through 2023 was all based on nuclear that already exists. It's the Diablo Canyon power plant that's in PG&E's portfolio. And when we brought that original decision to the board to take the allocation, it was essentially we're paying for this resource through the PCIA. It is a clean resource and it helps us reduce those emissions on our power content label. And that's important to, you know, all of our customers, not just our green prime customers, that we have low emissions on our power content label. The only switch now from what we were doing in the past is that now, because we're not getting the allocation for free, well, the allocation, because we do pay for it through the PCIA, we're requesting permission to buy them for the same reason. We're not building new nuclear. This nuclear exists on the grid already. It's producing carbon-free resources. We just want to be able to count those clean attributes on our power content labels and not PG&E's.
I appreciate you clarifying that for the public. And also, I would just suggest for anyone out there that might still be a little fearful of the fact that we're purchasing nuclear power or potentially, there's a really great documentary out there by award-winning filmmaker Oliver Stone. It's called Nuclear Now, and it gives a lot of great information about nuclear energy. So I just recommend anyone out in the public and my fellow directors, maybe if they haven't seen it, to check it out. It's pretty great.
Thank you, Director Scazola. Director Mohan?
Thank you, Chair Tyson. Staff's recommendation is to go with option 2 as listed in your staff report. And then there's a caveat that if you don't, if you're not able to purchase sufficient nuclear resources, then you may have to go to option 3. And since we're only talking about 1 year, at which point will you know whether you have enough or you don't have enough? And when will you make that switch if you need to?
So if we're able to line up the nuclear resource, and again, it would be coming most likely from PG&E, we would make sure that we bought a quantity that we believe to be sufficient to cover our shortfall right now. And so we would contract for that volume in advance. So we would tell PG&E, for example, we want to buy X megawatt hours for calendar year 2024, and we'd ask it to be a firm type of product, as firm as it can get. So we would know that when we actually go to contract for it, that we would get the volume that we need.
Okay, so there is some certainty then that you will get sufficient.
That would be our preference. Of course, the way that this could be sold to us is based on what actually gets produced. Nuclear tends to be very consistent. Sometimes a unit will go down for maintenance or for whatever, but for the most part, it's pretty predictable. Has a pretty good generation. But I don't know if you want to add anything else, Maren, about what we understand as far as nuclear's firmness.
No, I mean, I think all your points, Monica, on the expected output, if we were to purchase from something like Diablo Canyon is right. The one maybe little bit of caveat on Diablo Canyon that I might add that perhaps addresses Director Mehta's question a bit as well, is that we lost the allocation for 2024. We do expect there's a proposed decision out right now with the CPUC that will allocate the GHG-free attributes of Diablo Canyon to all LSEs going forward once it is past what was the original retirement dates. So we do expect if that proposed decision goes through, we'll start getting some of the allocation again by default, or we'll have the option by default to do that. So in that sense, this is a 1-year problem on Diablo with, I guess, 2 quick caveats. One, we are going to get a much smaller allocation than we did in the past, because right now we get our share of the PG&E service territory, and Diablo will, after 2025, when it was supposed to retire, will now be essentially a attribute that everyone in the state, all the ratepayers, are entitled to. So we'll be sharing it with Southern California as well. So that I think means we'll get less of it, but we will get it again, and that will help a bit. But I think to Monica's point, that doesn't change the overall trend that the system is going to have a very tight supply on renewable and carbon-free attributes. So we will expect those prices to remain high going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I don't see any further comments and don't have any online. With this, I'd like to open it up to public comment. Do we have any public in the room? We do.
Hello, thank you. I've reached Carney, and I sent some slides to Andrea, and could you put them up, please? So I wanted to start with a photo taken outside the door here 8 years ago when the Cupertino City Council was the first city to endorse the creation of SVCE. These are some of the members of Carbon Free Mountain View. So my connection to this organization goes back a long ways. Next slide, please. I wanted to let the board see how the emission factor has changed over the last several years. For the first few years, we had 0 emissions, all wind, solar, and large hydro. But as time has gone on and we brought on geothermal resources, which emit carbon dioxide, it's sort of like having soda water running through your geothermal power plant, and the carbon dioxide comes out of the soda and into the air. I consider that a clean resource, and so does the state of California. Next slide, please. A few weeks ago, I sent all of you a document that showed how your city's emissions over time have compared to SVCE's entire service territory. And in that document, I highlighted unincorporated counties. So Supervisor Lee, you can take a bow. The county has reduced its emissions by almost 50% over the last 7 years. And in consultation with county staff, I am led to believe that there were 2 mega projects that accounted for this. Stanford has done some amazing things to reduce its carbon footprint, and the closure of the Lehigh cement plant had a huge impact. So this is why the county has been able to do such a great job. Those cities that don't have a cement plant or a giant university in them weren't able to do this. Let's take a look at the next slide, please. So during the first few years of SVCE's existence, we went from the base case of before we existed in 2015 to our first full year of operation in 2018, and knocked down the carbon emissions of the service territory by 20.7%. Amazing. But then in the last 3 years, skipping over the 2 COVID years, nothing has changed. Carbon emissions have been flat. And if we were to take out the county, the unincorporated county, let's go to the next slide. Without the benefit of the closure of the Lehigh cement plant, if we just look at the other 12 agencies that make up this organization, we've gone up 5.7% over the last few years. Why would that be? Well, I don't have enough data to show you conclusively that it's because our emission factors have gone up, but I think it's highly suggestive that as our emission factors went from 0 to 72, that it was absolutely necessary for the emissions to go up. So I urge you to do everything you can to make sure that we do not leave our carbon-free roots and become an agency that's 78 to 85% carbon-free. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Do we have any other public comment in the room? I do not see any. Do we have any public comment online? I do not see any. Great. With that, let me come back to the come back to the board, and we've had some discussion, and I feel like I'm ready to get a motion from somebody. And let's try.
We on the motion, do you want to just deal with the green start first and not deal with green prime until later?
I don't know. What were you, Vice Chair? Were you going to say something? Oh, Director Rennie. I'm sorry. Let's see what he wanted to say, and then we'll come back to your question.
I wanted to talk about the green prime more, so his suggestion sounds good.
Let's do that. Let's split it. So in terms of green start, you recall that's the one we were just talking about, where you have the choices of item number 2, and that is pursue the nuclear power. I don't know if there's a good way to just maybe we could recall that slide.
Can we put it back up, Andrea?
Yeah.
The recommendation for
The
Green Start
recommendation
2024.
for green prime. Green start, please. I think it was slide 18.
Yes.
Okay, here's the staff's recommendation. And would somebody like to make a motion? Was that you, Director Lee?
Yes, sure. I'll go ahead and make a motion to, per staff recommendation on green start. as stated, 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's a 4, right? Isn't it?
It's just 3.
There's 3 on this picture. Right, okay, sorry.
Great.
Second.
Director, was that what you're looking? All right. So we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and have a roll call vote on the first item, the Green Start.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, who was the second of that motion?
Director Martinez Beltran.
All right. Thank you. All right, Chair Tyson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walia,
Aye.
Scozola,
Aye.
Mohan,
Aye.
Rennie,
Aye.
Chua,
Aye.
Mekchuk,
Aye.
Martinez Beltran,
Aye.
Showalter,
Aye.
Srinivasan,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Meadows.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries with Director Hilton absent.
Great. Thank you. Let's move on now to the Green Prime discussion. Director Rennie, would you like to help us with this?
Yeah, so we had quite a bit of discussion at the executive committee, and the different directors kind of came down in different places on this. What is in the staff's recommendation is where it was started. It's not really an output of our executive committee. I think we had one person kind of interested in 2, one interested in 4, one interested in 3, one interested somewhere halfway in between 2 and 3. So I thought that we really wanted to push it closer to option 3, what we were charging. Staff's recommendation is the 1.2 cents. I heard, I think Director Klein mentioned 1.5 cents because he liked round numbers, if 1.5 is round, but it was actually what he said. So I rather than quickly jumping into staff recommendation, I wanted to, say that was the output of our discussion. To go to all the points, I'm not sure I can cover them all that well, but
That's okay. Andrea, could you put that slide up? What slide number would that be? If you've got it right there, Tina.
It's not numbered.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 16, it looks like. 16.
Okay, I think we want to go one. I think there we want to go.
So some of the things we discussed in the executive committee was whether we really wanted to subsidize people that are buying this. And one of the things I asked the question, I could think of Don at the time, why did we start this? And really we wanted to provide, when we first made this, when we first began, we wanted to provide another option for people. And we weren't, we thought, okay, we'll do this, but, we'll make it cost neutral. The problem is over time, it's become very cost negative for us to continue doing that. I think some of the comments were, well, this is used by a lot of the municipalities to help their climate action plans. And so we are providing a service, but should we be financing that service? I think we got a letter from Mr. Carney that his opinion was, those that are buying the premium are most likely willing to pay a premium for it. So again, that says, should we really be subsidizing it? One of the other comments that I thought about was, at first I'm thinking, well, let's go all the way to option 4 where we don't subsidize anything. But PG&E is actually providing it something close to 1.6. You need to think about the market itself. Also, do we want to go so high that people are going to jump to PG&E? So that's why I sort of came down on the option 3 side was, well, let's not subsidize it as much. Let's subsidize it as little as possible, but also be competitive to the market. I don't remember all the rest of the discussion, so let me stop talking and see if any other executive committee member want to add in. I see Brian's hand up.
Yeah, but I'll call on me first because I can. Yes, because I was there and you captured it well. And I think a couple of the other points was we spent a lot of time discussing it, but if you look at the impact on our reserves, it wasn't, oops, oh, I just drew a thing across there. It wasn't really a big number difference. So I think it turned into a little bit of a psychological thing. And so what was the least disruption was struck me because you see that under the cons, the first item there. And so that was an area that caught me. So frankly, I was one of the people in between option 2 and 3, and it doesn't matter a lot to me where we end up in that territory. And then with that, I'll hand it to Director Makachuk.
I'm going through my notes from that meeting on the 27th of October. And one of the terms that came up multiple times, obviously, is sustainability. And there's two parts to that. There's environmental sustainability and financial sustainability. And that's where we got into the discussion about, how much do we want to, quote, subsidize this? And I believe that Director Klein was saying, if you go at a penny and a half, if it's 1.6, you round up to it would be rounded up to 2. And if you're at 1.5, you're at 1.5. So that's was some of the discussion. And I believe we were leaning towards between 2 and 3 around 1.5. But
would you like to make a motion?
Yeah.
That's it.
Public comment, or
did you have a further? I didn't see any. Oh, Dr. Lee. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. So I thank the executive committee for the discussion. I certainly do agree that the status quo of option 1 is no go, right? Obviously, the cost has gone up so much, while option 4 is going to be 50% over what PG&E charges, and that would be very much not what this organization does. We always want to charge less than PG&E, around 1 to 4%. So looking at that, I think certainly option 2 and 3 are the ones that seems to make the most sense. In terms of these options, 1, 2, and 3 are all subsidies, right? The only one that's no subsidies, option 4. So we are subsidizing somewhat. By going to 3, you're going to double the current rate of 0.8 cents. I think that's what the concern has been. I'm certainly comfortable with a number closer to option 3 than option 2. I know staff recommendations option 2, but I think given the reality of what the market is right now, even going to option 3 looks like we will still be charging less than PG&E somewhat. So I'm comfortable with whether it's 1.6, 1.5. I think those are all very reasonable numbers to go with. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other comments? Ben, Vice Chair.
Thank you. So thank you, Director Rennie, for capturing what we went back and forth on this one. And I don't think we all landed exactly at the same point, as you mentioned. But one thing was very clear, that everybody agreed we are okay with saying the certification, we could do self-certification rather than going and getting it outside, because that would be of benefit. And that was the only unanimous thing that came out of it. The other point that you touched upon just now, if we reduce the subsidy, is that going to be a big impact on any of the municipalities? Because as you pointed out, Rob, we are all using this towards our reduction of greenhouse gas goals for our climate action plan. And that's a big thing. So that is where we went back and forth between option 2 and 3. I just wanted to add that. I recalled that.
That's fair. Further discussion?
Chair.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. And to that point, I wanted to ask, I think, Dawn, you were giving us some insight on the municipalities, and you touched on it when you were reporting, but could you just highlight that again, since that's kind of, where.
Yeah, this is a hard thing to summarize because our member agencies use power in such different ways. So Monte Sereno and the county are 200 times different. So the amount that they're paying for their premiums respectively is different. But if you were to take an average, and again, averages are averages, option 2 would probably mean a 25K average hit per member agency, and then multiply it out for option 3 and 4. So it would be twice that for option 3 and 4 times that for option 4. But those numbers vary tremendously. Monte Sereno's number isn't very big. The county's number is very large, very large.
Can you give us what is the percentage of the municipalities?
So 12 of the 13 municipalities are participating. Is that your question?
I think it's like
I guess-
90 gigs out of
right.
200.
I'm sorry.
What percent of the green prime load is municipalities?
Oh,
So-
half of the green prime load is municipalities. Yeah, yeah, approximately half.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me try to frame this differently. The difference between option 2 and 3 at 0.4 cents per kilowatt hour is what percent of the total electric cost? I'm not asking you to do math in your head, but I know at my house, if it's 30 some cents per kilowatt hour, we're spending a lot of time talking about 0.4 cents on that. So that's as an individual. So help me see why are we parsing this in such a fine manner?
Well, it's again a matter of choices that you're making, right? So this is an elective option to pay this premium. But yeah, the premium, if in commercial bills, it would be 25 to 30 cents that a commercial customer is paying on average, something like that. It's less than what residential customers pay. So yeah, it's 0.4 cents is what, 1.5%, something like that.
In the context of when
3% for
other
option
rates
3.
are changing quite a bit more than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
One way or another. Yeah.
Okay. And
Director
then
Showalter.
Are you done?
I was, if that's okay.
You weren't done. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, and then I just wanted to say, I too was kind of settling on option 3. And that was just, and I think when I read the comments that came in for public comment, that helped me settle a little bit more, because it's true, we did go, between the two, but I was kind of settling a little bit more with option 3, just because I did like, it still provided a discount for PG&E. It was an option for those who really are committed to that mission to choose that. And I didn't, and we could use those monies in other areas, as we just identified with kind of Green Start. So those were some of my reasons where I'm at, and we'll see where it goes. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Director Showalter.
Yes, I just wanted to ask this annual, it's the annual bill. That's the answer. I was thinking was it monthly or annual? It's the annual bill. So you're saying that, for instance, roughly for the city of Mountain View, this would be a $25,000 increase in utility bill. Is that the order of magnitude?
Yeah, under option 2.
Under
Under
option 2.
option 3, it would be twice that. Under option 4 would be 4 times that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and round numbers, but yes.
All right, I think we're sort of narrowing in on something, but I would like to reach closure on this. And so I'm looking to see who would like to volunteer to make any sort of motion.
I'll make a motion for option 3 at a 1.5 cent premium. Can I do that?
You can do whatever you like. You're Director Mekachuk. And the other recommendations on that item, including the certification.
Following
It's right here.
staff's recommendation, discontinue the Green E certification. And then the repricing is to 1.5 or 0.015. And definitely communicate the changes to customers in December.
Okay, are we clear on that motion? Do we have a second? Was that Director Lee? We have a motion and a second. I would like to ask for a vote.
All right, thank you. I'll begin with you, Chair Tyson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Walia.
Aye.
Director Scozola.
Aye.
Mohan.
Aye.
Rennie.
Aye.
Chua.
Aye.
Micachek.
Aye.
Martinez Beltran.
Yes.
Showalter.
Aye.
Serena Vasen.
Yes.
Lee.
Aye.
Meadows.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries with Director Hilton absent.
Thank you, and thank you, staff. We will now proceed on into item number 5, authorizing the CEO to execute a 15-year power purchase agreement with SunZia Wind Power. And the speaker it's Monica Padilla.
All right. I also have with me our manager of wholesale market operations, Chris Van Vector, who actually negotiated this contract on behalf of SVCE. He is remote and probably, I think I saw him, hopefully still there. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. But I'm going to zoom through it since I've done these a few times. So we can go to the next slide, Andrea. Just to put the request out there to begin with, we're asking the board to approve a long-term power purchase agreement called SunZia Wind for approximately 100 megawatts of nameplate capacity, or approximately 316,000 megawatt hours per year of portfolio category content 1 RPS resources. This is a 15-year term PPA with the expected COD of September 2026, and a total not to exceed authority amount for the CEO to spend under this PPA of $361 million. So that's the request. And then we'll give you a little bit of background. Next slide. So as you can see, we've made quite a bit of progress on meeting our long-term RPS goals. We've signed to date 19 PPAs for over $3 billion. And we now have 7 of those projects operating online, providing a good 33% RPS for SVCE customers. Next slide. So we issue RFOs for these long-term resources, usually on an annual basis. In the beginning, we were doing them more often than that. And the reason we issue these RFOs are for multiple reasons: to seek RPS resources, to seek compliance products, including midterm reliability procurement requirements, resource adequacy, and of course, to try to get to our carbon-free goals for 2045 and even sooner. And so we issued an RFP back in November, mainly to find RPS and MTR resources, but we were also seeking a diverse set of resources to complement the portfolio that we have now. Through that process, we executed 2 agreements. We did not get the type of diverse offers that we had expected to get in our regular RFOs. And so when that happens, we try to look for other opportunities in what we call the bilateral market. And so the Pattern Energy offered through the bilateral process, the SunZia Wind project, about the same time that we were in this RFO process. Next slide. So SunZia Wind is a 3,515 megawatt wind park in New Mexico, and it will be imported into California through this line called SunZia transmission line. It delivers essentially at what's called Palo Verde, which is an interconnection point close to California. And it has several off-takers. In fact, when we wrote this, the biggest off-taker we had heard of was Peninsula Clean Energy, but yesterday we learned that Clean Power Alliance took, I think, 375 megawatts of this. Is that right, Chris? So a very sizable amount. We're seeking 100 megawatts of this resource. Next slide. So just a little bit of details about why we want SunZia Wind. It'll meet about 78% of our load, or provide a 78% RPS. It helps meet our greenhouse gas reduction targets. It helps us get to our goal of 75% RPS by 2030. It helps us get to our 100% by 2045 mandate. It meets our long-term RPS requirements as required under SB 350. It will support Green Start and Green Prime, which we just talked about. It provides midterm reliability capacity, about 34 megawatts is what we'd be able to count under their counting rules. And it has the potential to provide resource adequacy if we get the right products in order to bring it in. Next slide. So you can see here how it helps us meet our agency and state goals to being 100% clean. And so if this project were to get approved in 2030, where we have that 75% target, we'd be closer to, I believe, like 83% with this resource. Next slide. And this just shows how it helps us get to our long-term procurement mandates. Since it comes online in 2025, 5. No, I forgot. It doesn't actually help with the current compliance period, which is compliance period 4, but it does help with the outer compliance years. Next slide. It also provides, a lot of contribution towards building a clean portfolio, both from an energy and a capacity standpoint. So with this resource, we'll have about 19% in total coming from wind. And so again, one of our key objectives in building a sustainable, clean portfolio is to have diversity. And so right now we have a lot of solar. This helps us diversify away from solar. Next slide. So here's a summary of the benefits and why we recommend this project to the board for consideration. All of these I pretty much mentioned already. Next slide. And here's the request once again.
Great, thank you. Let's turn first to Director Rennie.
So I'm sorry, I should have probably asked this in some of our other committee meetings. What is the power profile during the day for this, thinking in terms of the duck curve? And is this helping the duck curve? Is it hitting stronger? How does it relate to like a typical solar curve we know, which is the middle of the day, and the wind is typically maybe not at the end of the day. This is further to the east, so maybe it's even better. I know you don't have a slide for it, but maybe you can talk to it a little bit.
Yeah, certainly, Chris, jump in if I'm missing anything. But yeah, the out-of-state wind, especially wind from the kind of New Mexico area, has a really nice complementary generation profile to in-state wind and in-state solar, and that it comes in later, much later in the evening than in-state wind, and of course solar with storage like we like to build. So it helps us spread out those clean hours into later in the night.
Okay, thank you.
And did I also hear that it's more powerful, stronger in the winter as opposed to the summer?
Chris?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. It does have a better generation profile.
So nice on
versus the summer. That's correct.
And then good all around then. Any comments from the public? Yes, we have one. Please come up here, Mr. Carney. And by the way, Andrea, we had Director Chua had to leave at 9:29.
Thank you.
So I don't know if this is new information to the staff or to the board. It was new to me this afternoon that PG&E has filed a request to extend the life of Diablo Canyon another 20 years. It was originally scheduled to close down in 2024 and 2025. The state has asked that it stay open until 2030, but that has not been approved by the federal regulatory agencies. So my question it really isn't so much as to whether you should approve SunZia. I think you should, but what would the impact be of knowing that Diablo Canyon would be operating until the mid-2040s on the overall procurement strategy? Thanks.
Thank you for that comment. Do we have any other public comment? I do not see any. And so let's bring it back to the board. And could you put up the recommendation again? And I'll be looking then for a motion. Oh, Director Martinez Beltran, I seem to have a blind spot over there.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute the SunZia Wind Agreement and potential replacement PPAs for the procurement of renewable wind energy in substantial form and any necessary auxiliary agreements and documents as follows 1A through C.
Thank you, Director Martinez Beltran.
I'm also in strong support of this project, so I would like to second it.
Thank you, Director Showalter. Director Rennie.
I'd like to make a comment related to Mr. Carney's comment. The nuclear is really a base load that runs constantly. They can't turn those turbines up and down. This wind, with its profile hitting right where we have a shortage, where the neck of the duck is and everything. So there really is a difference between buying wind and buying more nuclear. Nuclear is really good for your base load in the middle of the night and maybe even charging batteries and so forth. But this wind is really good because it's really hitting that time when the price of electricity is high and the grid is the dirtiest. So there is a difference. And so I'm absolutely for moving forward with this wind profile.
A good point. And boy, I've had enough years of learning that a nuclear proposal could turn into who knows what. And so what you bank on, and then who gets allocation to that, that would be another unknown. So having said that editorial comment, we have a motion and a second. Let's proceed with the vote.
Thank you. Chair Tyson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walia,
Aye.
Director Scozola,
Aye.
Mohan,
Aye.
Rennie,
Aye.
Chua is absent. Thank you. Mekachuk,
Aye.
Martinez Beltran,
Aye.
Showalter,
Aye.
Srinivasan,
Aye.
Lee. Is there Director Lee?
We don't see him.
Okay. Director Meadows?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries with Directors Lee, Hilton, and Chua absent.
Director Lee is not quite absent. Would you like to shout out some kind of aye? Like Lee says aye.
Thank you. Noted.
Great, thank you. That passes. And so let's move on to item number 6, an update on permit modernization. And we have Zoe Elizabeth there to speak with us about that.
Good evening, Chair and Directors. Get to be the final act of a long and rich evening. I promised our current CEO that I'll keep my presentation to less than 45 minutes. So this evening's conversation, I think, has made really clear that in this transition to clean energy, there's many things that are beyond our control as local agencies that we need to react to in this very complex system. But there's 2 things in the decarbonization toolkit that you have complete control over, 2 of really the most powerful tools in reducing local emissions. And those are 2 of those we're going to talk about tonight are permit modernization and policy experimentation, right? The control over our building codes and how quickly and easily we can upgrade to clean things such as heat pumps. Next slide, please. So I'm going to quickly go through the background on this presentation, an overview of what the schedule will look like and what we'll be offering, and then get any questions and your input. Next slide. So just first to ground us back, we all have seen these numbers before, but just really important to remember that the mass majority of emissions happen from direct combustion within our service territory, in our buildings and in our roads. And so 40% of those emissions come from the combustion of gas in homes and buildings. And that's what this program is really about. Next slide. So you all took the first critical step in stopping those emissions, avoiding that combustion and passing new construction reach codes. And I do just want to pause on this. It's a really simple chart, but not to kind of dissuade from the level of impact that's described here, right? Those codes that you all passed, which might seem like obvious steps now, but we know there was a lot of hard work that went into that. 50,000 heat pump water heaters will be in place in 50,000 homes. That's 50,000 metric tons of carbon that will not be in the atmosphere every year. Those heat pumps last for 10 to 15 years, right? So over 500,000 metric tons at 0 extra cost to our community, saving bills and saving in construction. 10,000 families with access to EV charging that would not have otherwise had that access. A really huge impact. And just, we spent about $1 million on that program. So it really was your work and your vision that made that impact. Next slide. So the next step in this sensible, pragmatic approach is now to begin thinking about existing buildings. You all might remember this slide from the study session that Justin hosted a few weeks ago. I believe it was Director Lee that said, that's a scary looking slide, right? When you look at the ramp up that needs to happen, right, to get to the carbon reduction goals that we have as a state and that most of you have within your own climate action plans. So the question is, what's the next step in this approach? How can we kind of do this in a pragmatic way with that same theme of what can support our communities? Next slide, please. And so this is really, again, where you all come in, right? It kind of can build off of taking things where when folks are already going to be touching those systems, making upgrades through renovations or through other major upgrades in their kitchens, other things where you're touching the wires and the systems in your homes, right? You start with new construction, but then the next time that makes sense is when you're already touching those other pieces of the system to actually upgrade. That can save money in the long run for homeowners. It can reduce headaches, and then of course reduce pollution. And then the other piece is making sure that when folks are going to make the right choice and upgrade and put clean appliances in their homes, it's easy and straightforward to do that and doesn't cost much more or take much more time than it would to do the gas replacement right through that permitting processes. So again, we're kind of thinking about those sensible next steps. Next slide, please. And what we think is that these types of local policies, things like electrification at the time of remodel, when homeowners are installing AC, we could actually help us move in the next few years from hundreds of upgrades a year to thousands of upgrades a year. And once you start doing thousands of upgrades a year, you can start to envision how you can get to tens of thousands a year, right? You can start to see how that really becomes the catalyst to further drive costs down, to incentivize the workforce. Next slide, please. So these two programs, it's about $4 million in investment. $3 million to help support your permit modernization and about $1 million in policy experimentation. And you can simply think about this as the behind the scenes resources to help you leverage these tools that you already have the authority over, basically. Next slide, please. And what that looks like, we're thinking about having basically two tiers. We understand that each of your jurisdictions is unique and has different types of appetites, different types of community, different types of building stock. So every single one of our communities will have a tailored consultation with our staff, a tailored action plan that suits your jurisdiction, and access to technical, legal, and communication and engagement support from our agency as well as from a list of consultants. For those agencies that are looking to go a little bit further, push the edge further, we also have additional resources such as access to expanded climate change trainings, extra support for fellows to help actually get those things done, and expanded consultant support. Next slide, please. High level, I've kind of already talked about these, like these can look, what this might look like, but some of the kind of foundational things, simple like streamlined applications. We met one-on-one with all of your building officials, and one of the things we heard is like, applications can sometimes be complicated, but we don't have time to go through and actually just clarify them. So streamlined applications. Things like virtual inspections so that you can kind of cut on the time that inspections officers go home to home, and also may actually improve compliance. Also, all the way up to something like a self-certification program, which is something that we've seen instituted in other jurisdictions across the state and the country to allow contractors to basically self-certify. And then on policy experimentation, things about like a time of sale disclosure, so folks know the risks of homes and what costs might be for upgrading. Electric readiness when you're upgrading or doing things at your remodel, make sure that pre-wiring is going in, all the way up to things of thinking about actually incentivizing full electrification of the home when a major remodel is happening. Again, a comprehensive list is in the appendix. Those are some ideas. Next slide, please. And this is an overview of our timeline. I guess, you know, the key thing to point out here is that you will be hearing from myself and my colleague Tony Yulo in the coming weeks to set up a one-on-one meeting with each of you, as well as with your staff to kind of go through and hear from you your goals so we can begin to build out that tailored action plan. Next slide. And just like with reach codes, there's several of us at SVCE that are available to help you all along the way. You got those pictures here, plus a bench of really sophisticated consultants that we're thrilled to get to work with. And I think guys have one last slide. So clearly we know that this is a big transition. There's a long way to go and we cannot do it all on our own or all at once. But we also know that it's possible, and we've seen what's possible, that we can work together and take steps, we will get farther faster. So we look forward to working with you all on these issues.
Great, thank you, Zoe. This is very interesting to me, and I understand that we have so many different barriers, and how do we just nibble or chop whatever it takes to get them out of the way. So let me see if I think you're looking for feedback and comments today.
Feedback,
And
comment,
so,
questions, yep.
I'll start with Director Martinez Beltran and then work our way this way.
Thank you, Zoe. This is excellent, and I'm really excited about this. I think my city would probably be excited to take advantage of one thing in particular you talked about was the program for trainings, but I heard fellowship, and I would love to see that fellowship program fully developed. We've taken fellows before and done rotations, and that's the number one thing that we're probably all hearing. I know I'm hearing all the time from my staff. They are overwhelmed. They have, a lot on their plate. So if we could take a fellow and kind of bring this in as the dream team to help this move, I think that would be a critical piece that I, as an elected official, could get behind, because I'm supporting my staff at the same time that I'm asking them to move. So it's almost like we talk about unfunded mandates, but if we've got some funding and resources behind us, I see this as a complete home run.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Director, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Yuan, you said it very beautifully. Without the support to the cities, it becomes more difficult for them to pursue the goals. This takes all the obstacles out of the way from the staff as well as from the residents, because at times residents may want to do the right thing, but when they see the challenges with city staff, they just say, oh, forget it. It's not going to work out for me. I'm on a timeline. My project is getting delayed, and that's costing me money. So it's a win-win from every single possible angle that I can see. So thank you. Super excited about it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll come this way to Director Makachuk.
This is just a breath of fresh air. This is really exciting. When I was in the executive committee and this came on, I'm like, wow, this is very cool. So I'm 100% supportive of it. And this is another one of those things where you can be proud to be part of SVCE and to show leadership as well. And so I support everything, positive feedback. And I'm wondering how you fit in youth commissions into this as an audience, because I think there's an important leverage point in there as well. I wouldn't take my eye off the ball, but just include them, I think, as an audience. That's my feedback.
Yeah, great comment. And I remember the Youth Commission in Monte Sereno being a particularly important group too. And so I'll say we have now this time, we didn't have as much with the reach codes. We're planning to bring on consultants specifically for engagement. And so those engagements could work with any of the groups directly in your jurisdictions too, to help build out materials and make sure they're included.
Thank you. Director Showalter.
Yeah, I think this is really a great program. I'm so glad to see this coming forward. And I think while it will be very advantageous to our residents, I think it will also be very advantageous to the contractor community, because we'll create much more of a level playing field and such much more uniformity from town to town. And that just makes it much easier to do business.
Really good point. Director Mohan.
I had one question. You mentioned that you had already talked to the staff at all the member agencies. And was there any resistance that you encountered, or was it all
Yeah, so we
positive?
to inform kind of the program design, we had meetings with each of the building officials and sometimes also sustainability staff. And I would say, the key thing that we heard were there's a lot of staffing constraints. That's like one thing that we heard over and over again of how we can help to support the staffing constraints. And then another key piece was the importance of trainings in new technologies. So it wasn't so much that we heard pushback, although sometimes I will say that we heard from contracting communities, there was more concerns about the slowness of permitting processes maybe than there was within the government staff. Maybe there's just a difference of opinions there, but the only pushback we heard is making sure that there weren't going to be unfunded mandates, or that it wasn't just about pushing certain types of appliances to the front of the line, because building officials already see, right, there's ADUs are getting pushed to the front of the line, solar is getting pushed to the front of the line, and soon it's just, if everybody's pushed to the front of the line, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So putting different types of solutions instead of just stop clocks there. That's what we heard.
It would still involve a lot of planning to work with each member agency. Everyone's unique, everyone's different.
Yes.
And it hasn't started as yet.
No.
No. Great. Let's turn to the public. Do we have any public comment? Not in the room. Do we have any? We have a Director Meadows. I see your hand. Let's go ahead.
Yes, sorry, Director Tyson, I didn't get my hand up quickly before you opened public comment. I was going to say, looking at this, I love the ideas, the concepts. I think getting contractors trained will be very helpful too, because I know some people who've tried to go greener with various things they're doing around their house. And if their contractors don't know how to do it, then sometimes they don't do it. But what I wanted to say around the timeline is some agencies, including mine, have rezoning deadlines of January 24th. And so trying to come in, and I don't know if you've talked to it, but not just short staff, but short staff with a sort of housing element requirements to get all the zones redone by the end of January 2024. That timeline might not fit with that, just as a heads up.
That's great input, and we can definitely flex that. Thank you.
I think that would be helpful.
Great. Well, I think you've gotten some feedback, and I think you're getting nods of support all around. So we wish you well. And this is for information only, so there's no vote. So thank you very much, Zoe.
Thank you.
And we'll now move on to board member announcements and direction for future agenda items. Do we have any? Director Martinez Beltran.
Thank you. I just wanted to share that this past weekend, I'm sure many of you are hearing about Dia de los Muertos, and that happened. It's a tradition in the Latin American culture that celebrates those who've passed on. And I just want to thank SVCE for being a sponsor to those in South County. We had a really great altar lighting celebration. There was a procession. There was, people having food and a festival, as well as another one that's coming up, Posada. There's a bilingual community that is being kind of reintroduced to SVCE. And so I think it's a really great opportunity for us. So thank you.
Thanks for that note. Any Director Mekachuk?
I'm very pleased for SVCE's support with their Ford Lightning F-150 to help the city of Monte Sereno in the Los Gatos Holiday Parade on December the 2nd.
All right, thank you. It's quite a beauty from what I see. With that, I don't see any other items. And so I would say we are officially adjourned. Thank you very much.